Cassandra, what an honor to have you on the Light Path podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so much looking forward to this conversation.
I spoke to you off air before, but I have been looking to have a really juicy, honest, and I want to say revolutionary conversation about the topic of Tantra, because I think it's time for a little bit of a tantric revolution in terms of how we understand it, how we use it. So I cannot wait to dive in. But before we do that, let's just pull a card for this chat. Oh, okay, interesting. The card is focus. What's your immediate response to that?
I love that you just pulled this card, because when I was tuning in and preparing for this conversation today, because Tantra is such an enormous topic and you can spend hours, days, weeks, months on one part of it, years. I think what would be really powerful is tuning in and focusing on which aspect of Tantra we want to really dive into, because, as you know, there are so many different understandings or misunderstandings of Tantra. And I think, even just the definition itself can be so broad in its interpretation. So I think it was also a little reminder for me, maybe a little divine nudge going, okay, rein it in, because, when I start talking about Tantra, I kind of don't stop. So I think that's what I took from that card.
Stay focused on what we're asking.
Yes.
I think to me, pulling that card focus, correct me if I'm wrong, and I am a complete novice in this field, but to me, I think the energy of Tantra is all about focused, intentional life force energy. I could be totally wrong there. But isn't it a way to focus?
Yes. Before we get into the real conversation about what Tantra truly is, there's nothing that Tantra isn't. So the whole idea and the whole reason why often there's misunderstandings is because one cannot agree on one singular definition. Nobody can agree. And there's a good reason for that, is because it's actually focused on your direct experience, your relationship with the divine, your embodiment. And so for you, that might be your experience and your interpretation of it, and that's how it's manifesting. And then for other people, they have a completely different experience of it. So, yes, in a way, Tantra, when we apply the concept of focus, is actually more of an understanding of the nature of reality and really highlighting certain aspects of consciousness and reality. So rather than kind of going, what's going on, we have this deep understanding, this deep knowledge of non-duality. And then from there, we can kind of reject nothing, accept everything.
Okay. So in its true essence, aside from misunderstood mainstream culture, is that essentially how you would define the idea of Tantra and the role it plays in our lives, personally, professionally, all the ways?
Yeah. So I guess in order to understand this question, why don't I take it back to what is the classical textbook Sanskrit definition? What is the origins? What are the different ways that people kind of experience it? And then I'll then use that to frame how has it evolved and how can we use it in daily life. So to give everyone a bit of background, Tantra is its origins, although it's really universal in nature, it's not time bound. It was originally cognized around 5,000 years ago in India, like a lot of the knowledge that we have access to now and we use. And its actual Sanskrit definition is to weave, a tool for weaving consciousness and expanding consciousness. So Tantra. So it's those two parts. And so basically the fundamental understanding is it's a method of expanding consciousness. And then it broke down, and there's different lineages of Tantra. So there's Hindu Tantra, which is very focused on the feminine and masculine principle. So we have Shiva and Shakti, Shiva being pure consciousness, and then Shakti, this energy flow. And it's about the union of those two energies, which is why often this is applied to relationships relationships and lovemaking because it's this union of the feminine and masculine. However, it goes so much broader and deeper than that. You know, it's the everythingness. It doesn't need to be just pigeonholed into relationships, but it can be applied to it. And in Hindu Tantra, you know, they focus a lot on deity worship, and they have mantra and yantra and all of these beautiful practices. I have many, you know, colleagues, they engage in that, they teach that. It's so beautiful. And then there's also the Buddhist Tantra lineage, which is a bit different because traditionally Buddhists focus more on emptiness and compassion. It's a bit of a different approach, but there are different, you know, crossovers as well with that. And then that all sort of trickles down into what we know as neo-tantra. And this is the modern Western adaptation of it. And somewhere along the lines, for whatever reason, and I have many theories of this, it's kind of become misunderstood or pigeonholed as, well, this is just about some crazy sex positions or something. And, you know,
yeah, that's what I think. When I hear the word, it almost like my mind goes to the Kama Sutra. Like I just think that they're one and the same. They're probably completely different things, but that's where my mind goes.
Yeah. And it's okay to think that, because yes, that's a part of it, because there's nothing that is not a part of Tantra. And Osho, who is somebody that, you know, I've trained with his disciples, and, you know, if I was around the 70s, I probably would have been one of those, you know, people at the ashram. So, you know, lucky, because I actually want to be married to my husband and have a family and live the life that I'm living. But he has this incredible book, Tantra, the Supreme Understanding, and basically goes into, it's actually just this acceptance of everything, rejection of nothing. And it's about using the body as this vehicle for our evolution rather than rejecting it. So that's why in the West, with this sort of sex-obsessed culture, right? If you think about how we've been socialized in history and how we've been brought up, it's not really such a thing in the East, you know, whereas in the West, it's like we're obsessed with it, right? And so the reason why Osho used to speak on these things and became seen as controversial and triggering to a lot of people is because he's like, well, don't reject your desires, right? Like it's natural to have desires. It's important. The body's your vehicle, your body's your anchor. Honor the body, love the body. Don't reject your natural desires. It's natural to have sex. It's natural to feel desire. And if you're feeling this agitation and suppression, don't suppress anything. Use it to expand and go beyond the desire for sex. So he was very misunderstood. And I mean, we could talk about that for hours, and I won't now. But that's why, and when we use Tantra, we apply it to love and sex and relationships. It can be the most powerful vehicle for transformation that there is. And that's the area that I'm trained in. It's the area that I teach and practice, because I realized that we were put on this earth to love each other. And there is this incredible disconnection between love and sex and men and women and the masculine and feminine right now. And I was like, this is where it is. This is where the healing is. And the healing starts within our own bodies, within what we are doing, how we're interacting with others. And relationships can either be our biggest kind of struggle or worst experiences ever, or they can be our biggest vehicles for evolution. And so that's why we see in the West this whole, oh, it's to do with sex, because that's the way that we may start to apply it, especially people that are really in their heads. What's the easiest way to get into the body and enjoy it, right?
Yes.
And you can't, you're waiting.
Chocolate? No, just
and that's the thing. And so when to have the capacity to have these deep experiences in lovemaking, you've got to have presence, you've got to have awareness, you've got to be connected to your body. You have to really be in that experience. And so this is just one way. I mean, we can apply Tantra to any activity, but this is why in the West we go, oh, you know, what is that weird thing? I remember when I first heard about it, I thought it was some like crazy culty, I don't know, swingers party or something, and each to their own, like reject nothing. I'm not here to, you know, yuck someone's yum, but what it really is just so much deeper than that.
Well, that's interesting. How did you get into this? Because you are an amazing teacher in Ayurveda, and you have this most beautiful business 111 that I have devoured for years, literally. And so when I put that in the show notes below, but I was saying to you offline, I'm like, oh, it took me a second to realize you're one in the same, because I followed the 111 journey and the amazing nourishment and success of that. And now, coming into, what you call your part of your dharma, which is just so beautiful. How did you find Tantra, or even Ayurveda? Like, where did you come into all of this?
Yeah, so it's been a journey, and yeah, thank you for honoring, 111. It's definitely one of those other vehicles to bring awareness and healing to the world. How I first came across this was, of course, like everybody, we have our personal experiences and obstacles, which can lead to our awakening and then our desire to really explore something. It was about, I guess, maybe 10 to 12 years ago now. I was just, it's that typical case, right? You're working so hard, you're burning the candle at both ends, you're just completely living in this lack of awareness about everything, basically. And then health issues and burnout and anxiety and all these things just came crashing down for me. And I was like, wow, okay, well, this isn't going to work long term. So that's when I started to discover all of these. It's weird. I went ancient first. I don't know if it just called me. To this day, I have absolutely no idea how I found my meditation teacher. I just Googled it. I don't know. I can't even tell you. Maybe it was just an intuitive thing.
What's the beautiful saying? When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Exactly. And I was definitely ready for a big wake up call. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I found him, and I found Chinese medicine. I found all of these alternative modalities. I loved kinesiology. I was like, what is this? And found Ayurveda, of course. And the common thread was that it was all mind, body, soul medicine as one unit. So that was really, and then I was just hooked. I mean, I dove straight in, and I haven't popped out my head out since. I've just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper, like an obsessed scientist. And why I ended up being just like, Ayurveda's it, is because I love philosophies and concepts, because I feel like truth for me that tie everything up together in a big red bow, and nothing's left out of that. So Ayurveda, once you have a real understanding and mastery of the principles, you can apply it to absolutely anything. Same with Tantra. And it's taken a lot of years and a lot of writing notes and books and sitting with teachers and demanding answers and being a crazy researcher to get there, and learning a lot from Dylan, our co-founder. I mean, he's so embodied in his knowledge. He really is one of those people that is ridiculously authentic. He lives and breathes what he does, and I just love those people because I think they're so rare.
Yeah.
Really walks the walk, right? And so I got to just absorb all this knowledge like nectar, and then now I'm like, oh my God. And I see this real synergy between Ayurveda and Tantra, because they're broad, holistic sciences that empower the individual to show up in each moment, no matter what, with knowing exactly what to do.
So if you were to look at the Tantra overarching principles and how they translate into living day-to-day life, how do you teach that they inform that?
I love this question. And to put it simply, it's, the final conclusion of the Vedanta, which is everything is one. So it's understanding non-duality, and from that understanding, whether it starts out as a concept and a principle that we remember, we come back to, or whether it's something we start to really embody, from that perspective, I mean, that transforms everything. That transforms every action. Everything's just me. Then, first of all, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. You're here to enjoy the experience, even though sometimes it's kind of hard to do that. And it's love. It's just pure love, right? There's also the understanding of we have incarnated in this experience to bifurcate and then come back to self through connecting with others in love and in relationship. And that's the principle again of Shiva and Shakti, that union. And you can look at that in so many different ways. Then there's also this idea that we don't reject the body. We love the body. And there are a lot of, I guess, ways this is manifested in modern Western society, but also in ancient spiritual traditions. Not saying they're wrong, but a lot of them, they have a legitimate path, which is also a path that works for some people, that renounces the body or is like, this is an obstacle to my evolution. Whereas Tantra is like, no, this is your anchor, this is your vehicle. Honor the body, love the body, and access the infinite by going deeply into the finite. And it's about embracing life, being in your body and your senses, this lush God consciousness experience where we're just devouring this world that we're in and reaching it that way. And this is the way of basically, it's the whole truth. So some people would understand Tantra as, you know, the basically hovering between the infinite and the finite, and you're learning to bring that into this, as opposed to going, I reject the world, I reject this isn't even real anyway, I don't want to engage in it, and blah blah blah. It's like, no, we actually chose to have this experience, we chose to fully embrace it. So it's actually just really about going deep into it and embracing life. So I love to give this kind of silly example of eating a peach, right? So, and just like a normal way, we can just simply absent-mindedly, as we're typing an email, chomp on a peach and go, oh yeah, and we don't even really know the peach is there, we're not really tasting it, we're not really present, we're just eating the peach. Whereas if the tantric way to eat a peach is to be with the peach and feel its soft, you know, beautiful skin, and then just take a really slow, deep bite into it, and then you're feeling, oh, the sensation of the taste and the juice dripping down your chin, and you're going, oh my God, I can't believe that this is also me, and what a trip, I'm getting to taste me, and this is so beautiful. And you're just getting high off every single experience because it's just so insane. And there is so much pleasure to be found in each moment through our senses, which we can go deeply into more and more and more. And so how do you apply Tantra to daily life? Well, first of all, to put it simply, bringing presence and awareness to everything you do. Easiest way to do that is through your senses and your body. And you would know this so well, being an intuitive, you know, you don't think your way to those insights coming through in other ways. So it is that sixth sense. It is that, what is that? You know, you're living in that place the whole time and you're being as present as you can. And look, the hardest possible thing for us to do in modern society, 100%. We're not all there, but and that's why with your relationships and lovemaking, wow, it's a difference between, I guess, you know, do you want to just cram junk food down at your desk, or would you like to go to the markets and get some local produce and make a home cooked meal? You know, sit at a Michelin star restaurant. You know, are you just sort of surface level coasting through life and distracting yourself perpetually, or are you going, I am going to grab this and ride it? You know, and when you apply that, yeah. So as I said, when you apply that to lovemaking in your relationship, imagine if each of us just fully loved and devoted ourselves to our partner and saw them as the divine, which they are. Imagine that, how that energy transforms if you're looking, this is my God, this is my goddess, and you're present with your partner. You have awareness, you can hold space, you can engage in this deep spiritual, emotional, energetic level. It's not just this surface level physical interaction. I mean, wow. So it's just about bringing the enjoyment and juiciness back into life. And hey, it's a journey. You know, a lot of us are really stressed out. If our nervous system isn't in a place where we can go there, that's why we need to use things like Ayurveda to really be able to ground. Step one, like, you know, crawl before you can run, right? But that's why I say it's just a continuous process, and you go deeper and deeper, and you just, it can be just the most juicy, lush, rewarding, divine journey.
I want to come back to the sex aspect of Tantra and the energy around that. But before I do, and I didn't realize it until I've now sitting in front of you and soaking in your wisdom and your essence, that because I really want to know how, like, a practical application of Tantra throughout our day. And I had a really bad day and I've had a really shit day. And And so it's so nice to have moments like this to look forward to. But sometimes they're moments where you think, I've got to pull myself out of my stuff. And so I kind of want to put you on the spot a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And say like, okay, so today I have felt really untethered. I felt highly anxious in my mind about a lot of things I can't control. And in particular, directly related to my work and how it has been received today. But the day started by relationship and how I perceived I was not received there this morning. And so I'm in this loop of untethered, I guess, I would say nervousness, not anxiousness, thoughts about all the things I can't control, to the point where tonight I'm actually going to a beautiful concert and I don't want to go because it's out of my routine, it's out of my norm. And I just feel like in this untethered vibration, I just want something I can control today. And so it's the last thing I feel like doing. I'm obviously going to do it because I'm going to do it. But how would you maybe say to someone like me right now, how you could bring some of these tantric principles in to help not avoid and not bypass the humanness of this experience, but to help me come back into the reminders of truth.
Thanks for sharing that. I was just feeling that whole thing in my body. I was like, yeah, no, in a good way. I was like, yeah, I just be able to tune in. And also, just the fact that here you are, you've shown up for this conversation. And, what that tells me is that you are holding space for all of those feelings, those emotions, this whole experience, and then you're still in action. And so that's just a high degree of mastery. It's not that you're pushing it down or pushing it away. It's the total embracing of any emotion. So what I personally do is that when and by the way, this is, I think, a funny, ironic part of this journey is as you feel more deeply, well, guess what? You're going to feel everything more deeply, as you know. And you're like, oh, they didn't tell me about this.
No, everyone says, I want a spiritual awakening. But do you though? But do you?
Yeah, you're like, okay. It's like, okay. So what I do is first of all recognize that I'm human and these are body sensations. I tune into the body sensations, quickest way to get out of the head, keeping the conversation going and adding more thoughts and piling it on. So I go body sensation. So be as present as I can with the body. If I need to go and take an hour out to just really be with that emotion, and I'll either need to be with it really hard. So I'll need to go and cry it out, like wail it out, yell it out. Like I'll move my body, I'll go for a walk, I'll cry it, I'll scream it, I'll send a voice note out to my besties, and then maybe delete it later.
I've been on the phone to them today. There have been conversations.
Yeah. So, right. And so all of that, it's to move it, to vocalize it, to move it out of the body. I might go and change my physiology physically. So give myself a self-Abhyanga, one of my favorite Ayurvedic rituals. Do I need to have a hot bath? Do I need to go for a sauna? What is it that I need? So tune into my body. What does my body need? Because you know what? The body's the one that processes it. So we've got to just honor it. But if I'm in the middle of something and I just need to show up, I'm just going to use my discernment about, is it more important and beneficial for me to show up and sit there and just practice my mastery of holding it without suppressing it at the same time as engaging in something? Because that's building that muscle. Or where am I at? Like, are my internal resources kind of depleted and I'm not able to reach this demand right now? And then that's just when you just choose what's best. Maybe you need to cancel something, maybe don't go. And that's where someone like you has such a mastery, because you're so tapped into intuition. There's no right or wrong answer ever. It's just intuitively, what's the best thing right now? And there's nothing personal in that, because what the best thing is when you're really tapped in is the best for all things, everybody, everything, the one thing. And so it's honoring that, because that's honoring everything else. We don't see all the pieces of the puzzle. We can only see our little part of the cosmic intelligence. And so I think, it's really just honoring, and the the last thing we want to do is be suppressing or repressing emotions, or feeling bad about them or wishing them away. So yeah, and I find that the more that I just let myself just feel those raw emotions, the faster they move, and then I go, okay, yeah, cool, all right, what's next? So that's the process. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope that anyone listening to that remembers that and is their permission slip for when they're having one of these disconnected or untethered moments, to give yourself what you need. And I love that reminder, because if it's the best thing for you, then it's the best thing for all involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't avoid a conversation about Tantra without going into the idea of sexual energy and the exchange that happens when we partake in that. I have spoken a limited amount on it from my perspective, but I think that you're far more poised to talk about this. Basically, I just would love your take on what is the transference of sexual energy when you engage with someone physically, and what is your take on that type of energetic hygiene in our lives? Because I'm with you. I think that we do live in a sex obsessed and a sex dismissive culture. I see sex as something very highly sacred. So I've always been a bit odd in comparison to the mainstream in that way. And unapologetically so. So I would just love your take on sexual energy exchange.
Oh, it's such a big question, and I
know,
love it. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful question, because this is where it just touches on my heart and why I do what I do. Because my God, I think when you really grasp it, you realize there's absolutely nothing casual about sex at all. I mean, and this is from the lens of Ayurveda, this is from the lens of Tantra. And look, they're absolutely, we're all so different, right? We all have different journeys. We all have different ways we relate to this energy. And I've met so many different people, a very broad spectrum of people that engage with sex energy in just all sorts of ways, right? I think for me, and I'll speak to my personal journey, because that's just, I mean, my source of truth really. Is that I think when we lack awareness, or maybe we're a bit younger, we haven't gone deeper into life or awakened spiritually, or perhaps we've had some layer of trauma from the past, perhaps we've been disconnected from our heart, perhaps we simply just haven't matured yet and sort of been educated or understand really what's going on, which, let's face it, most of us aren't. We don't get a proper sex education at all. Basically, my sex education was don't have it, full stop. And it cracks me up, because, you know, this is what I do now. It's just funny how life is. I obviously chose that experience. But anyway, it's a whole long story. So,
but isn't it funny? Like I mean, you're probably a bit younger than me, but I think about our kind of genre of sex education was don't have it. And now the genre, like, you know, listening to my 14-year-old nephew, it's an education. But they're all about now consent. Like it's still so basic. It's still so like, still we're not talking about it.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah. That's a whole, oh my God, that's a whole podcast in itself. But I think from my experience, without the connection to myself, spiritual path, connection to my heart, you engage in sex in such a different way. And that can be anything from validation to it being performative, to being just sort of depleting, not, you know, it's not wrong. None of it's wrong. It's just our experiences, right? But you can have sort of sexual experiences which maybe are drug fueled or alcohol, and maybe they're really fun, you know, maybe that's one experience. But then when you actually look at what's going on an energetic level, even a biological level, I mean, on so many layers, once you go deeper, once you're tapped into those parts of yourself, you find that you treat it with such reverence and recognize that it is an unbelievably sacred act. And you go, Oh, wow. Okay. You're going to naturally engage in it in such a different way, not in a way that's, sort of punitive or sort of, overly rigid, but just more an understanding and a reverence for the act. And you're going to be probably a bit more selective about who you do it with. You're probably going to engage in it in, I would say, a much better way, become a better lover, honestly. But it's really going to transform things. So I find this day and age like the most crazy social experiment. I mean, we have all these subgroups. We have people that believe their liberation means just doing it as much as possible with as many people as possible. And hey, if that is genuinely true for them on a heart, soul, body level, then amazing power to you. It's about embracing what your authentic path is. For me, it's actually the realization that you can go so much deeper in a loving, monogamous, conscious bond with somebody. You can really go deep in that. And I'm not saying that that is for everybody because everyone's different, but that's just been where I found the most richness. So that's been more my path. Long-term relationship, you can really go deeper. Not to say that you can't use Tantra if you're single. Oh my God, you can really embody Tantra. There's so much you can do. You can really go deep with yourself even. You can engage in this with people as long as there's a baseline of trust and it's a yes for your heart and your body and your soul. There's no right or there's no wrong. But I think a spontaneous and natural relationship to sex is the same as your relationship to everything else. You're more discerning, you want better quality, you're from a higher consciousness state. So you're going to attract and demand experiences naturally that are deeply fulfilling and nourishing and bringing you closer to God rather than simply just this, I don't know, just to get off. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Like, again, Tantra accept everything, right? We don't demonize anything. We don't say anything's wrong, but it's just really interesting to me to see where everybody's at. Look at the dating market, look at all these people on podcasts, the same thing. I mean, I'm just watching it in utter fascination, going, where is this going to take us? Damn. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole where we're going?
I think that sex has become something of the head, like you're talking about, and it's not necessarily about it. Connection doesn't drive it. It's more satisfaction. And I think the world in general is moving away from the idea of externalized satisfaction and more into what is, like you say, feels right and good and connected for us. And I think historically, from what I can see, men have been the temperature gauge of sex and they've held the power of sex, and it's been very acceptable for them to have sex the way in which they would like to have sex or have been told they like to have sex. And women have been waking up for a long time from this. So the oppressed essentially will wake up first. And obviously we see now a lot of social discord around women choosing not to have sex, and the men then saying, well, why not? And I think what we will see is the men redefining the act for themselves and coming into a deeper communion with it. And as women, we have, I think, been waiting for this. And that's generally speaking. And like you say, no judgment on how you want to do it. But when you do see it as an energetic practice, it makes that way more obvious. So I think we're getting really bad before it can get really good. So in cell culture, there's even like the idea of sex as a commodity, all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot of the stuff is coming to the surface. And we like you say, we chose to incarnate at this time. So it's a very fascinating time to be alive, because a lot of the rules are thrown out. So everything can go. So we figure out what needs to stay.
Oh, there's just so much to unpack there. I mean, my God, and just when you were speaking to men and women, and I think it is this real connection to ourselves and this actual understanding which can transform us. So, men, I think, are so misunderstood sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So
even by themselves,
Oh
I
my-
think I think it's far more confusing to be a man than it is to be a woman.
Oh my God. And just from a tantric perspective, so how we're wired with our energetic polarity, this is what I found to be such a liberating understanding, is that the male polarity, their positive pole, is in the genitals. So their pathway to love is always going to come that way first. They're always going to want sex first. That's their visual. They want to go straight into that. But what they want on a deeper level, that's actually showing love, that's giving love, and that's moving that energy up to the heart is what opens their heart. Whereas the positive pole and the woman is in the heart. So they're already open here, and they actually need to open there first to then engage sexually. And so this is this beautiful dynamic polarity. And then men get a bad rap because it's like, oh, all they want is sex, all they want is sex. Actually, what the truth is, this is the truth. When a woman is really awakened in her sexuality, she has a regulated nervous system, she's in her feminine, she's in touch with her body, she is 1,000 times more, sexually voracious than a man. I mean, insatiable. So that's the truth. But the thing is, men's positive pole are in the genitals, so they're wanting to engage in that way. If your man's wanting to have sex with you all the time, really what he's wanting to give you is love, even if he's not even aware of it. That's what's really happening. And then when the woman's open, this is just a beautiful gift, because then that is a way where he can actually open his heart. So as women, we are actually the leaders in Tantra. We don't boss men around and tell them what to do and say, you're not doing it right. We naturally guide them simply by being. And that is just a force that they can't resist. And before they know it, they're really experiencing true love. And even if the entry is sex, but it's got to be done in a certain way. We need to take their hand and guide them into it.
So how does that then speak to the I think maybe the popular culture narrative? I mean, there is brain stuff to back this up, and I'm no brain surgeon, so I'm not going to give you all the words because I don't know them. I've heard other really smart people talk about it. What is then, how do we speak to then the idea that when a woman has sex, she feels connected? Well, we get that. It's because we feel already connected. Let's be honest. If you're having sex with somebody, you're probably already feeling connected with them. But then a man who can have sex and then that diminishes his connection to the woman, or, you can be dating someone and then the moment you're intimate, he loses interest. I think we've all been there, if not heard about it. So how does that play out? Is that just because of conditioning? Is that because, where do you sit with that? I'm not really sure where I sit with it.
Yeah, such a good point. And there are a lot of layers going on there in that situation. So first of all, the woman is the gatekeeper. So it's her attunement, it's her discernment. The egg selects the sperm. So she is the gatekeeper for allowing that man into sexual energy. So she needs to be so tapped in to know, is there something a little off about this guy? Is he genuine? It's not adding a bit of mystery, not giving things away too soon and just judging that. So she knows deep down. So that's number one. And okay, if the guy, she didn't see it coming, fine. There are a lot of people out here who are addicted to dopamine. So that's dopamine style sex. That's the quick hits, right? It's just means to an end satisfaction. I'm not saying, men are angels, women are angels. There are evolved men and women, and then there are men and women that are kind of in this frame of mind, right? So no one's an angel, no one's a devil, we're all out there in this dating pool, right? So that guy might just want short-term dating strategy. It's up to the woman, I guess, to filter all of that out. And there's many ways we can spot whether a man is just after that or whether he's actually genuinely into you. And that's a whole nother podcast, which we should but yeah, there's
a lot of recording to do, girls.
And so there's that, but then it's also, there is this idea in Tantra, even within committed romantic relationships, that you want to keep the energy flowing. So there is a way to engage in sex in Tantra, which is not only extended and deeper, but it doesn't always need to result in orgasm. And what that does is that keeps the energy circulating and it keeps that bond there, this juicy, simmering sensual bond, because it is a thing biologically, say that a man ejaculates, there is this energetic disconnection for a period of time because that's his biology. He's also lost a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So, he's depleted his ojas temporarily in Ayurveda. So that's a thing too. I think the question you're asking is more about sort of dynamics of feminine, masculine, the dating, the seduction, the attraction, that it takes you being a bit of a sleuth, I guess, and really intuitive to assess what's going on.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to wield that power. I think women forget how powerful they are. And
totally.
And so yield it, because you want to protect yourself. What is it? Explain someone. Can I say this question? Can I get it out? I'm not sure. But explain how we would come to work with you. What would we come to you for if someone is interested in this? Because I feel like I want to be able to see myself in the clientele. I want to be able to see myself in the experience, because I think this is such powerful work. But because it is quite misunderstood, I think people might not be able to see themselves in working with someone like you. So what is that experience like, and why would I come? Who would come?
Yeah, so how I'm currently working with people, and I only take on very limited clients because it's very devotional work. For now, I believe the best way that I can serve is to be facilitating one-on-one work, because the work's deeply personal. There are many layers involved, and it is really what I'm doing right now is tailoring what's needed in the moment. So I do also have clients where we work just on the spiritual aspects. As I said, Tantra is applied to life. And I mean, and I work with men on that level. But for women, the 3 areas that I help with one-on-one, so I don't know, I can give you a link for my show notes, is A, on feminine power, because basically that's going to change everything. And that's my favorite, it's the juiciest. Number 2, it's on the relationship aspect and how we can apply Tantra to that and some, Vedic wisdom to that. And 3, it's on this sacred sexuality and intimacy piece for women. And it's basically in those 3 ways. I would say that's what I'm doing now. I am working on building out some other really, really beautiful and powerful and supportive things. But for the moment, if you're listening to this and this is calling you, you've got my links, get in touch. And then, it's very personalized.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's so important for people to remember, that no matter what type of practitioner you're working with, there is no one size fits all. And the more you're willing to expose yourself to your own truth and having that held by someone, the more powerful and groundbreaking the work can be or will be. It just will be. So please check out the show notes for all Cassandra's links. They're all there. But what is one last thing that you would like to leave us with in terms of the juiciness and the joy of life that we so often distance ourselves from?
I would say, if you're listening to this, can you do one thing today? So if you are in a relationship with someone right now who you love, and you're in a happy, healthy relationship, go home today and see your partner as the divine and show up that way and witness how that transforms everything. If you are, single or whoever you are, if you did one thing today and take, even if it's just one moment, to fully engage in an experience you're having, whether it's biting into your lunch or your favorite food, whether it's feeling the sun on your skin, whether it's anything, just take a moment to drink deeply of that and be in that experience, and know that the more you practice that, the more you can live in that way all the time, and you can really shift into this just wonderful relationship with life.
Cassandra, thank you so much for opening that door and that awareness for us.
Thanks for having me. I love this chat.